Right, yeah, thank you very much. So let's not waste too much time here, Matt, because the first week was an interesting one for the Dallas Fuel, right? Not the opening they would have liked. They got the fanfare, the lights, camera, action, but it was mostly an Outlaws fan. They were outnumbered, and they ended up obviously losing in that live match. They bounced back really well at the end of the week, making it a little bit hard to truly evaluate where the Dallas Fuel are at.
And the Gladiators looked really good last week. I believe they have the second best map differential really early in the season behind the Shock. I think the Shock's at like 9-1. But they didn't exactly play the strongest of competition last week, right? They played New York and they played Boston. So I'm really excited for this match because I think we're really going to get to see where these two teams are at in terms of the landscape in the West.
Yeah, really interesting to see how the Gladiators showed us, obviously, a bit of Arn's action on maps that allowed for hit scan. Heroes, we got to see Patapan as well, quite often piloting the Genji, with even a little bit of Echo mixed in there, right? It's clear to see that Kevster is still the most reliable aspect of this team, at least in terms of damage. And Reiner has really shown, right? His Winston was just, I mean, top cut, especially, on control maps, right? So there's a lot to lean on for the Gladiators. But while we discuss tanks here, Matthew, an interesting inclusion for the starting lineup for the Dallas Fuel. I think Johnny hinted at saying, okay, we need to see Dallas set the pace, Fearless leading from the front. Hanbin comes in here at tank to start off.
Well, we casted a game last week where we saw Hanbin, I believe it was on like an Eichenwalde, where he was playing the Zarya, and they were playing like a Zarya with a Reaper combination.
Yeah, Route 66.
It was really good. Yeah,
it was incredible, honestly. We noted just how good Hanbin was at setting up his Sparkle on the Genji, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's probably what they're going to try and do here today, especially with push being at the beginning, where you can get really aggressive, probably use those bubbles, and have Edison on the Reaper and then Sparkle on the Genji. That seemed to work out for them when we last saw this team. I'm interested in how that works against some of the stuff that the Gladiators have been running, right? They've been running a lot of the Soldier 76. They have Ons to come in, do a long-range hit scan. We can take a look at the Gladiator starters for today here in a sec, but you'll have Funny Astro in the mix, Shu, and then they're going to start Ons today. So that tells you potentially, like, maybe they want to play a little bit further, play a little bit further back against this rush that may come in from the Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, given the map pool as well, it's probably not a huge shock. We've got our push maps at the start of the series this week, right? So I know Arns can pick up that Soldier 76 and be really punishing potentially.
Yeah, and Colosseo, as that first map, it's got that long sight line, right? Where the bot is. Like, that is perfect for when you're thinking like a Widowmaker, an Ashe, 76 really strong in that corridor. It'll be interesting what they decide to put Ons on, because like you mentioned, we have seen Kevster and Panafan a whole lot. I think we've seen Ons like in a handful of situations. So I think this will give you a better insight into how they want to use him. And actually, Mitch, you kind of look at some of the maps in this series with Gibraltar and Eichenwalde coming.
Oh man!
Maybe this is a series you would have just put Ons in on those.
Just leave Ons
anyway, and said, yeah, let's just leave him in. Like, let's just keep him hot, keep him fresh, and start him.
Now, this series between the Fuel, the Gladiators, has always been pretty hotly contested, right? I think the record is almost sort of equal over the years, and obviously these rosters have changed a whole lot. But as it stands, the Dallas Fuel still have a cloud of uncertainty over them after a bit of a seesaw performance last week. You see, last time these two went head-to-head, it was the Dallas Fuel that managed to win. But that June joust was definitely a higher point for them, and Dallas were conspicuously absent towards the end of the year and that Countdown Cup. So these two teams really feel like they come in at a similar level. The substitutions will be very interesting as the series goes along. Right, you kind of mentioned maybe we see Arns just be a mainstay here. And I guess, Edison, how does he stand up against, Arns as a hit scan threat, right? Edison, maybe not always put in a position to thrive throughout his career, but he's extremely experienced at the Overwatch League level, and he definitely represents that hit scan answer that the Fuel were looking for last year.
And this is a Fuel composition we thought they would run. We talked a little bit out in the pregame. It's Zarya with the double bubbles with two flankers with the Reaper and the Genji in the mix. And for the Gladiators, they'll have Reiner on the Doomfist here. We've seen this, I believe, from him before on this map in particular. And they'll run the Soldier and Genji. So you'll have Ons here kick things off on the Soldier 76.
All right, so the two teams will get the measure of each other here at the start of the round. Already a bubble given over towards Sparkle as he dove in, and Edison heading in the other direction. The Dallas probe a little bit here at the Gladiators and force them back a little bit, but what's unlocked and we're about to get some clashes.
Sparkle is really low. Takes a shot there from Shu. I thought it was interesting as well. We saw there for a little bit where Reiner didn't up to go in with his Doomfist punch. Yeah, they take out Edison. So before, Edison TP'd in and Reiner like pushed him back and forced out the Wraith form. He was using their own barrier to kind of hide behind. Because there's no real long-range damage for the Dallas Fuel, right? They have to be the team that engages here. And if you're able to force them back, you know, cooldowns like get the dash out of the way of Genji or TP and the Wraith form of the Reaper, you know, and a bubble or two goes down, you're in a spot where then you can get into position with that 76 and the Doomfist and start to take over.
Yeah, a lot depends on Chio's speed boost here. Hartman's going to get the nano boost now. Reiner, power block's not going to save him. 90% damage reduction, by the way. Yeah, Edison's still able to cut through that. You might be right, Matt. His composition not well suited for the poke game, but once Dallas can get the engagement they're looking for, they're off to the races.
This fight for the Gladiators, though, coming up should be pretty good. This will be a nano attack visor.
Oh, he's dead.
Donovan should get mowed down, yeah. You also have sound barrier, but you're probably going to save that, right? You know Sparkle is going to have that blade coming up soon. It's not going to pop it now. Funny Astro with a little, with some big kills there in the feed. So.
Yeah, Lastro or Funny Astro, both of them really getting involved in a lot of these final blows, and Hans is going to have the triple threat of speed boosts to get him back into the fight as quickly as possible. Blade here for Sparkle. Chio has a sound barrier. Both teams do, in fact. So similar ult scenarios here as the Fuel again will look to try and take a fight. At least here they can get Edison fairly close, but he's spotted out, stunned briefly, and that's a bubble force from Hanbin. Here's that Sparkle Blade, and Kevster's going to reciprocate, but he's in the back line already, and it's almost like Fielder wasn't ready for him there. Kevster, though, hit with a Dividing Grenade, tries to back away, but Edison's going to be able to clean him up now. The trade is there. Chio's sound barrier expiring, though, with Sparkle's taken down by a Helix Rocket. Arts is taking the reins late in the fight.
It is a trade there at the beginning, but the Gladiators keep their tank alive. Reiner stays alive on the Doomfist, and you just see how much of a nuisance he is. He ends up picking about 3 players, I think, in that fight. And with the power block and the damage reduction that causes, and obviously getting shields, 2 supports to help him out, it makes it really difficult to dispatch that Doomfist, especially when you lose a player early. Even though you trade if the Doomfist is still alive on that other team, not when the first target dead, it's pretty tough.
Graviton Surge for Hartenbin there. He is doused in a bite of grenade as Kevster looks to try and finish off Chio. He'll back away. Reiner. Oh, he's able to get away. This could be bad for Edison. Yep. He's going to try and get out of there like Road running out. The Doomfist remains a threat until the Helix Rocket connects. Funny Astro also dispatched, but it's a decent lead here for the Gladiators after, so they pick up the Echo here. Sparkle switching off Genji too.
I was going to say, Kevster went over to Echo, and I was going to say probably needs to reconsider that because they switched to the Soldier and Tracer on the other side. 2 characters really good against Echo, and Kevster will match Sparkle in the Tracer battle. And you'll have Reiner go over to the Winston, so a pretty aggressive comp coming out from the Gladiators.
Nano Zarya right now. Hanbin, unclear how much energy he has. Okay, decent amount to work with here, plus a bubble in reserve. That's going to convert to even more energy now, and Arts is put to sleep during the Nano Visor. Absolutely huge connection there from Fielder, and now Harvey looks to try and finish the job. The Soldier's in deep trouble. Another bubble dispatch. Arts is down, but he gets Fielder with the tail end.
I was going to say, he gets Fielder as soon as he gets up. It may not be the difference in terms of the barrier stopping progress. Dallas will keep it moving, but then this next fight coming up, Fielder's going to have that long spawn. You're going to be able to, Reiner's going to jump right in here. You're going to be able to start this fight pretty fast for the Gladiators, and Dallas is forced to back out a little bit.
Yeah, Fielder's being taxied back into the fray now by Chio, but losing him in that fight really takes some of the wind out of the sails for Dallas. Okay, Arns gives up the high ground. Sparkle can hear an Ana. Yeah, firing away. Spot Shu there. Probing Pulse Bomb. No stick, though. Still controlling the high ground and definitely giving Shu some cause for concern. But here's a sound barrier now for the Dallas Fuel. They lost Edison, though, already. No chance for him to go for that tack visor. And this fight's gone awfully for the Fuel, despite getting a sound barrier off. Funny Astro mirrors, and now they're getting run over.
I was going to say, we haven't seen his POV a lot so far this round, but Funny Astro's played really well so far. Both beats that he's got.
He has 7 final blows!
Yeah. But I think what I was going to say is, when Sparkle is lurking up there on the high ground, Ons doesn't hear him, but Funny Astro actually I think he hears him and he starts to move up over towards Shu. And when he goes down to drop that pulse bomb, he actually gets booped a little bit. Funny Astro kind of dislodges him. I think it just kind of shook Sparkle a little bit. Never was able to kind of get back on track to land that pulse bomb on Nana, which she wasn't really even moving that much at the time.
That is just not good for Edison there.
Yeah.
He held onto that tactical visor man and was hoping to make the play here. No Nano to back it up, of course, and he gets absolutely crunched. The Gladiators are a fair way ahead of the Dallas Fuel right now. Not just from the eye test, but also, of course, here in terms of distance. And I mean, this bot's going to get under the bridge comfortably before Dallas can regroup.
And I also think you see the flexibility of Reiner here, where he's able to play the Doomfist and then now the Winston at the high level. For Hanbin, we've only seen the Zarya so far. Heard his Doomfist is pretty good, but haven't seen it in this map. Really kind of shows you that tank role. There's not really a main tank or an off tank right now, right? It's just kind of, you have to be able to play all the tanks, and Reiner seems to be picking up most of them.
Pulse here could be dangerous. Fielder needs to keep his wits about him. Okay, maybe a bit of a non-bow. Yeah, Reiner jumps in there with a primal rage at the same time. He also gets blown up here. Far too much damage to the Bardic Grenade, making his life a little hard. Edison going to use the bot for coverage here as the Gladiators are bundled back towards their spawn.
This could be huge, though. It's going to be Reiner now going back to Doomfist. Minute 23 on the clock.
Yeah, Dallas has switched off the Tracer.
Yeah, Hanbin's got this grab. He's been sitting on it for what feels like a while now. Just really interested how they're going to try and use it, because Overwatch 2, people are spread out a little bit more. Not as much clumped together in terms of fighting. You're going to have 2 support ultimates here for the Gladiators, so when do you want to use this grab? It's such a high-impact ultimate.
Okay, so tac fires are there from Edison. This, ironically, creates a bit of space, but again, he's taken down during the course of the ultimate. He needs to respect the damage output of Arns there. Harmon has no bubbles left. I repeat, 0. But he has 100 charge. So he's a little bit scary to push into right now. It's only Shu caught inside the grab. Funny Astro jumps in. Sound barrier provided now. Dallas need to follow up here, and they do. Shu, even when the extra protection of the overhealth is felled by Harbin, who is beaming him down.
So charged. And this is what Zarya can do. As I'm actually going to get the bot the other way, which I know buys a little bit of time. But
it's huge.
Zarya,
20 seconds.
If you're able to use your bubbles in the right way, you get so charged up, extremely tanky. It's, not much space at the fuel have to make up, but you're going to lose Edison.
Back breaking out with Dallas have a long way to walk back. They don't have a forward spawn secured, and Fielder, rather, is going to be in trouble here. Close to a nano. Kev's is starting to pop off a little bit more, and Hanbin, he takes himself down. Overtime won't be a thing here in this map as the Gladiators spend most of the round ahead, and they finish on top.
Dallas started to pick things up towards the end, but I think the Gladiators, they had the answer for the Dallas Fuel compositions at every turn. I think you saw really the versatility of Kebser being able to play multiple different heroes there, the Genji, the Tracer, Echo, and then Reiner being able to go from Doomfist to Winston quickly, even just kind of in between spawns, feels like almost all the time, to counter what the Fuel were throwing at him.
A lot of switches in DPS, right? Pretty interesting to see how these teams try to set themselves up in a comfortable spot. But the fact is, Dallas didn't start in 1. They're going to want to hope to start map 2 off in more of a comfortable spot. So stick around for more of that, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Overwatch League. Right, I'm requesting it. Funny Astro pretending to be Lucio. I need that on Rookie. I need the
gift. He better be getting the bag.
That's, you know, that's called method acting, you know what I mean? That guy might even have had an earbud in, you know what I mean?
What happened
Making
to the
sure
song?
he really nailed it. What song?
The Gladiators.
Oh, come on.
Gladiators.
Wasn't that like 3 years ago?
It's just permanently in my brain.
You know, maybe they're busted out if we get to sort of see them at a live event. So far, I mean, they're paving the way towards showing up in Texas in a few weeks' time, Matthew. The Gladiators feel like they start off on Colosseo with a really robust composition, right? You teased it. Hey, middle part of the map, great for that hit scan. They come out the gates with it, they get an early lead, they convert it. Fearless now, coming back in for Hanbin. So, Desire, it really impressed us last week. Today, didn't quite hit the mark on Colosseo.
It also gives them a little bit more flexibility, right? I think Fearless will probably be playing the Winston on Gibraltar mostly. And then they'll have Skewed come in for Funny Astro. This is something we've seen the Gladiators do in the past. We've seen them play the Brigitte a decent amount here.
Funny Astro's like, mate, I got like 9, 11 final. I had more final blows than all my team for most of the round, and you're subbing me out. Unreal. Yeah, well.
For a second there, I thought you were complaining about your own play. And I was like, there's no shot you ever got 9 final blows in a game. And I was like, there's no chance. But yeah, no, Funny Astro, yeah. I mean, he gets brought out here, and you bring Skewed in, but he's great on the Brig, right? You know, he was massive for the Gladiators last year. Can come in, be like a Brig specialist on this map, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen him play the Zen instead of Baptiste Zen compositions as well. It's like, you know, we see Skewed get folded into quite a few looks last year from the Gladi because everyone's like, where's Moth? Where's Moth? Well, Skewed was really able to cover all the roles that Shu couldn't.
This is where I worry about the Dallas Fuel, though. Like, no, Edison had a little bit of a rough go that game 1. Obviously, going up against Gladiators team looks fantastic right now. And On's one of like the best hit scan players we've seen like in Overwatch League, period. Yeah. Now you kind of have to match him on the Widowmaker here. It really puts a lot of pressure on Edison, but I also think it's like around, you know, it's a little bit responsible on the players around him, right? Like Sparkle and Fearless put that pressure on us as well.
I think I'm glad you brought that up because this map either allows you to showcase your hit scan talent on your team, or it can expose a deficiency in that area, right? So, you know, we've seen teams. Yeah, okay. Try not.
Winston is sick. Yeah, okay, so he's not even going to try and do it. So they're going to play the Tracer out through.
Again, we've seen teams just opt to not try and deal with the Widow v Widow. I mean, Boston, like, you know, I think they had Victoria playing the most obscure angles to try and avoid the 1v1. It doesn't mean they're playing double dive here. They are going to be doing this into Brig, but of course, Shield Bash doesn't have a stunning component anymore, so you maybe feel a little more comfortable about diving in. It is all in, though, for the field here, so see if they can execute a dive. One of the dives they were so well known for, Matt, last year.
It's just always tough because you have to track where Once is on the map at all times, right?
Yeah.
Forces you to play a little bit more passive than
he's out of his bubble.
Fearless gets slept. Oh, he gets hit with a biotic grenade as well. He's going to have to back up.
Oh, now inside his bubble, it's one thing. But the bubble dropped down below him, so his head was peeking out. I thought Arns could have just ripped it off there if he managed to scope up in time. A ton of damage on Fearless. Takes a headshot there. My guy's getting put in the power washer.
But look at this. You can move the payload, and I think this is a good idea here from Edison to try and get the payload a little bit underneath this bridge, give themselves some more space, because right now they don't have any space to operate.
Sparkle hit with a biotic grenade here. Okay. There's a bubble for some safety. You'll get hacked. Bit of a Girl Scout cookie and send him on his way. Still right as an issue. Slept. Oh, Sparkle thinking about it. Okay, line up the burst damage. It's there. Huge. They get rid of Reiner, but there's a nano boost on Kempster here, man. He's working towards a blade.
Yeah, but what? He's in like a 1-on-4 situation. I mean, I guess he takes out Fearless, but Edison does a nice job on the payload.
Have you met my friend Teru from the Vancouver Titans? that's kind of dank, actually. Yeah, a bit of a deep cut. Again, I guess, look, he builds his blade there, Matt, but he's able to take Fearless away. And 1v4, he trades for a Winston. Not terrible.
The Gladiator's going to be able to hold here, you think, though. It'll be a rally invested here from the Dallas Fuel, but you have the Primal Rage for Reiner if you need to use it, and you're going to have your own rally.
Keep an eye on Shu. Yeah, if he can get out of this one scot-free, he can do a lot in this fight. Sparkle's trying to find the Iana, but Gio is going to find it first.
They weren't able to contest the Gladiators. Even with the Primal and the Rally, they got pushed back a little bit. And they're going to give up that first point. So, yeah, good first point attack there from the Dallas Fuel is really on Edison being able to move that payload as the Tracer that gave them that space to operate, because before that, they weren't getting none. The Widowmaker Avant's really cutting off all sightlines.
And there's the case for not taking a Widow duel, right? Use a flexible play that can reposition quickly to force fights in areas where Dallas feel advantage. Speaking of which, high ground play. They can drop Fearless off the top of the shuttle here. Fielder tries to find the angle to keep him topped up. Nano available now. Okay, slept initially, but he's fine. Fielder is going to give up his life for having dropped off the top of the shuttle here, but he set Fearless up to really cause some problems. And Gio getting rid of Shu, little snipey from Fearless. Okay, I see you.
Finishing players off with that, all right. As we've seen that a little bit more from our pro players than I think just kind of people playing the beta, being able to use that Winston alternate fire as the Fuel just roll past Gladiators into the second checkpoint. You really see what Fearless brings to the table as a main tank. Just absolutely tremendous on the Winston.
And what a test this is for Reiner, obviously who's looked amazing so far this season, to match the impact of the very seasoned Fearless, who just loves to play that aggressive style. Okay, fired a grenade there on Reiner, he can't get away. Edison chased him down. That's a big blow now for the Gladiators. They lack the structure here to put a stop to the Fuel for the moment. This car might round the bend.
And the Gladiators have no answer right now. I mean, while you have a Nano, you're going to have to wait for Reiner to get back. Kepster nowhere close up. Blade is what Edison takes some shots there from Ons from behind. Has to back out.
Fearless is almost deadlifting his team on the Winston. All right, now, give you a bit of a stat. Big impact for the man. He's going to try and back away, grab that Mega. Reiner knows he cannot leave the safety of his bubble. And over his head, does the other tank go? He'll look to play a bit more defensively here and back away as the Gladiators try and get maybe ready for attack. Primal, few key ultimates coming online soon as Fearless goes for his now.
Yeah, he had the Primal, he got slept, so it gets like really not a ton out of it as Shu will be able to finish him off. So,
Sparkle almost has that. Yeah, he tries to save Fearless there.
Yeah, I mean, it was even, but there was no shot of them pushing up, yeah.
Okay, nice little Kobe there from Shu. Yeah, Sparkle almost has Shu dead to rights there. I think he just misses a shuriken. A repair pack quickly sails in from Skewed. So we saw Primal, saw a bit sort of used there. Edison now going over to the Soldier 76, facing down a lot of big ultimates from the Gladiators here. So this is a little scary for Dallas.
You also just need some more, you know, damage and long-range damage, specifically to really kind of get Ons out of that position up on that high ground, right? He's able to play up on the bridge.
Already in for a penny and for a pound. Ons eviscerated. Shu fares a little better. Skewed has to head for the heals, but in the meantime, Reiner's dived the Gladiators backline here, and Kev's has gone in with the blade, so this has prevented any real follow-up from Dallas, despite Sparkle's big impact. I mean, he left a crater, for God's sake. The cart still sailing underneath the bridge now, as Sparkle getting pressured down by the Winston. Tac visor coming out now from Arms. Can he push far enough forward to actually find some purchase here? The answer is yes. Kevster cleans up after the damage comes in.
But like you mentioned, even though we were on with Sparkle, Reiner uses Primal Rage, gets into the backline.
Oh dear.
And then Kepster is able to get two of his own.
Love that from Arns. He feels like he probably has to at least trade, get the Ana out of the picture there. He knew he was biotic grenaded standing on his own biotic field. Still able to get a lot considering how dicey that was for him.
Just putting so much damage into Fearless as he's got to go back to that Mega Health Pack and finally get healed here. So it goes back to the spawn, gets some healing from Fielder, but playing around what? This nano boost onto probably Fearless, maybe save it to try and put it on Edison with a tac visor, but the payload, since it's gotten to this corner, has not moved very far.
Nano for Fearless. Shu trying to do the dance. Sleep Dart looks like it got expended there, so now it's a green light for Fearless to take a couple more steps forward. Looks like he's happy enough to create some space and deny the high ground play. He needs to be a little careful. Yeah, bubble thrown down. He's deep behind enemy lines. Can they get Fielder out of here? Fearless rather in one piece. Tac visor, that'll force Reiner away. Even claim that life. Beautiful finish here for the Dallas Fuel. Now they're getting a little bit closer. No key ultimates really on the horizon here, but you can say the same for the Gladiators, Matt. Kevster from all angles will be assailed, and Dallas can sail it home.
It's a good offense there from the Dallas Fuel. Really big impact from Fearless there at the end. jumps in as the nano dodges getting slept, puts enough pressure, then gets the primal to then just dislodge Once. They even have to use their nano boost onto Once to try and keep him alive, but he doesn't get much with it. And really, Fearless occupying 3 members of the LA Gladiators at that time allows his team to just kind of clean up the rest.
Look, I mean, Fielder comes into this week as the top healing Ana in the Overwatch League so far. We talked so much about the utility that she provides, right? Body Grenade, Sleep Dart, like I think we talked about Sir Margid yesterday and how that was so important in his performances. Fielder basically has the combined healing of Shu and Skewed right now. So he's really been dishing that out. It's a big part of what allows Fearless to be 7-2 in terms of final blows deaths, really play that extra aggressive approach. And that's another weapon in Dallas's arsenal. You know, Ana, yeah, right. I know that support healing's been toned down a little bit here in the PvP beta, but still, if you can dish it out, you're going to set your tanks up for success.
Dallas will go with Genji Tracer on defense as well. We'll see what the Gladiators decide to opt into once they see this. So it's really a pretty aggressive setup. No long-range damage. Maybe the Gladiators decide to stay on the Widowmaker. Maybe they decide to bring in the 76. What we saw Once play some Tracer, like, when he was on the shop, but not in ages. So yeah, I fully expect him to either be on this Widow or go to the 76.
Once to the skies. It's very little. Yeah, the Fuel are just not even bothering. Again, such a hallmark for them to sort of go without that long-range hit scan. Basically a defining trait at this point. Bit of body shot damage there, Arns. I think Fielder definitely needs to keep his wits about him. He does realize where he was positioned there. However, problems for Edison. Removed by Kevster, who's causing all sorts of problems for Dallas. As we watched Arns just whiff.
I mean, he hit a few shots, right? And he was just putting some pressure. It lands a headshot on the Fearless. And the supports are forced to back up out of that position. They can't really move up to heal other players because they know that Once has them in his sights.
They're very susceptible to Kevster dashing through that narrow hallway right by the bridge, which is probably how it went down. Gio just got smoked.
Yeah, Kevster picked up another one. This payload is moving out a lot of defense coming in from the Fuel as Fearless is a nice shot, picks up 1. They just trying to back up this in. Edison's so low. Like, yeah, they're not even like, yep, they're going to get it right across. Looks like Fearless actually used Primal, try and like go into the server room and make a play, but
I mean, that's all well and good, but you leave, what, your Tracer, I think, on the card.
I mean, you're going to get staggered here like crazy too, right?
And now you have to deal with sort of Widow having decent angles here. I think the Gladiators probably want to push up and create a better staging ground for Arns to use. But I mean, he's going to come into this fight with infra sight, so we can just pick around the corner and have an instant pick potentially. Very dangerous for Dallas. Oh, I don't like this at all.
No, Dallas is kind of like grouping up inside of the plane.
Sleep on Reiner. No follow-up as of yet here. Okay, that turns around pretty well. They control Reiner inside that shuttle. They're able to drop to the low ground and to stay out of the line of sight of Arns as well.
Yeah, Fielder hit a big biotic grenade. I believe connected with Skewed and Shu there. So no point to pop the rally in that position. The Sleep Dart also prevents Reiner from using the Primal, which he probably would have liked to do in that position. 15. Just the fact that you're willing to keep that is just kind of silly.
Yep.
And then they get the kill out of it. Yeah, I mean, he actually got the shot on the Sparkle, got him really low.
Yeah, really forced him away. That's what allows that kill to be claimed eventually. Shooting it with a pulse bomb. Reiner, what's the plan here? Okay, pressure down Fielder if you can. Kevster Blade to follow up that damage onto the back line. Both supports take him, but Kevster doesn't get that health pack by the looks. He's able to take to the high ground, but he has to get out.
Yeah, so, you know, you're not going to be able to get anything with that Blade. So Once moves away from Widow, goes over to 76. This will be a little bit easier for him to kind of control that high ground, consistent pressure coming on in. We'll see if the Gladiators opt to use Rally here. You know, Dallas Fuel has some big ultimates that they don't necessarily have to spend.
Sparkle Blade, okay, he pulls that. He trusts that he's going to get enough healing. He exposes himself briefly to Arns, who switched to the Soldier here, and then puts himself in a position where he can't really compete in the rest of this fight. I like the follow-up though. He sees Fearless drop into the backline now. A big body grenade going to connect on the Fielder and Chio. That's pretty bad if you've got Rally active for the Brig, but they're going to be able to survive this anyway. Fearless with the Primal Rage inside his close quarters makes mincemeat of the Glads.
Yeah, Chio had a rally as well. Primal Rage from Fearless inside by the Mega Health Pack as defense for the Dallas Fuel starting to get going here. So the Gladiators, you probably don't really even hate that push, if I'm honest. You were down heavy in terms of ultimates. You got them to use, what was that, 3 there? So I feel like you're kind of putting yourself in a better position.
Edison not happy with that one, doesn't connect the pulse, and Arns just hits him with a face full of burst damage. Fortunately, can't slay out of that one. Fearless again, continue to be topped up here to the high ground, dropping down again. Biotic Grenade connecting on Kevster, allows Fearless just to tickle him to death. But Reiner is able to get rid of the enemy Ana. Now where do we go? Towards the Brigitte, I guess. Get rid of the other support. Chio can't do too much either. He's forced to succumb.
Yeah, Fearless is going to be able to make it out, it looks like, with his life, which is huge. But this is what the Gladiators are playing for. You know, they end up losing that fight, where Dallas had all of those ultimates. They come back this next one. Look at this. You're going to have 4 out of the 5, but probably just Primal coming up here. Well, not anymore, as he gets mowed down by a Nanovisor.
Yeah, and that's just the perfect timing. Not only do you have Primal to deny Dallas the ability to contest, but also to knock Fearless outside of the safety of his bubble, subject him to Arns' onslaught. That's a pretty comfortable fight win there for the Gladiators, and they maintain the blade heading into this next one.
And now you'll have Edison going over to 76. I think you need to have some type of hit scan here, being able to control some of that high ground. You see where Ansa's set up? It's massive, so trying to see Edison maybe trying to get set up on the high ground like that bridge that Reiner was just taking space on.
Edison definitely being put to the test so far in this map. Arns knocked out of position. Can there be capitalization on Fearless's attempts to displace? No. Defensive Biotic Grenade, and Fearless is forced to back up.
The blade here for the Gladiators. Maybe you consider using it? Yeah, Kev's just going to pop it.
Yep, Edison pops down that Biotic field, but the healing doesn't come quickly enough. And with Shu dealing with Sparkle now, Dallas de-toothed, as it were. And that card's going to come up just around the corner here. Kev still wants to prevent Fielder from having a decent look in here. And yep, we've got 2 Doormen here, Matthew. This is quite the club.
Dallas should be able to come out of the spawn though and fight this. Rally from one side, you have Nano, you're going to have a Blade as well. This is a fight that is very winnable for the Dallas Fuel.
And I think the Gladiators know that. Looks like they're giving a bit of spacing here to Sparkle as he tries to come in with a blade. That's the trader. It might actually be the start of pistol. An opportunity here for the Gladiators, perhaps, as Fearless isn't able to secure Shu because Skewed has Inspire, just ticking constantly. Kevster's forced to back away there as Fearless is on the card on that Winston. Chio gets healed up now, realizes that staying close to Reiner is a death sentence after the Biotic Grenade connects from Shu. Reiner takes a breather here, knows he's close to Primal, wants to set this up for some environmental kills. None of those opportunities present themselves, but Chio lingers a little bit too low.
You know, the Dallas Fuel end up using a lot of those ultimates and they didn't really get much out of it. And Reiner just does a fantastic job just using some of the cover on the side there, some healing from his teammates, being able to stay alive in the back line of the Fuel for a very long time, get that Primal Rage. And it pushes them over the line. Both teams about even though here on Gibraltar, right? Just 1 second separating them.
Yeah, real close, and you know, we asked for nothing less for what is easily considered our match of the week on the face of it.
Yeah, after the game we cast yesterday, we deserve a close one.
I want to point it out here that Fearless currently leads his team. I'm going to gloss over that in damage and final blows. So Fearless really demanding a lot of respect right now from the Gladiators here. He's 13-6, Reiner 8-7. Fearless definitely putting in the reps. Arns has a ridiculous amount of damage here. He's definitely having an outsized impact, but low on final blows. Kevster has 16.
I do think that the Dallas Fuel, if you're not going to play the Widow, they've done a really nice job of being able to kind of circumvent what the Widowmaker does, just the presence of that hero on the map. They're just kind of like taking away sightlines, taking away space. They've done a really nice job using the Edison pushing the payload to make that difference. This is towards the end. Final fight there is Kevster just does Kevster things, right? It's almost like he's been so good, I feel like, for obviously a very long time now on so many different heroes that I feel like it's just like kind of expected at this point, right? Like it's like he's able to come in and play. He can play projectile, he can play hit scan, he literally just play anything and just be fantastic on it. He's just made it look so routine at this point that like it almost doesn't feel as especially warm up, man. He's sick.
And he really unleashes his other DPS player, right, to just be positional, more intentional, play that Widowmaker, just look to secure picks. Don't need to have, you know, this gigantic impact when you've got Kevs just like doubling everyone else's final blows.
Fielder bad. Fielder was really low and then got hit with a biotic grenade. But Reiner opted not to push around the corner, try and take him out. I think it's the right call in the end, but man, was he low.
Chance for Sparkle here to pressure, and they are able to force Reiner away. The server room is definitely going to be hotly contested in this upcoming fight. Sparkle catches a glimpse of Arns there.
It just ducks his head, yeah.
That self-preservation instinct kicking in big time. Poison Mine deployed. Oh, he's hit with a biotic grenade as well. Dangerous. He's got to be topped up, Matt. Sparkle trying to get again out of Arns' purview. This man generates so much threat just from being there. Can't get close to the server room now. Arms getting dove on, he's able to stay alive there, but Reiner starting to deal a little bit of damage here when it's Edison to fall now. Fielder has been forced away from the rest of his team, but Fearless has been able to get the nano boost beforehand, and that's going to allow him to do work in here, but the cart needs to be attended to, and Dallas have Fielder forced away.
A good defense here from the Gladiators, but very winnable for the Dallas Fuel. You know, we'll see them now on defense. Let's see what they decide to do. I think they're going to go with that Tracer combination again. They can play pretty aggressive, right? You can kind of play up on the high ground. You don't have to chase Ons here. You can kind of force, you know, one player to push the cart. You can force some fights down there. So it's definitely winnable for the Dallas Fuel. So 1:04 is not, I mean, we just saw 1:03. 1:04 is just, it's not a lot of time. I mean, it's what, 2-3 fights in terms of, you know, Overwatch, where teams will just posture for a bit and then come out and fight. So, see if the Dallas Fuel can make it happen with this Tracer Genji setup on D.
Right, so the question for me is, how do you avoid that sort of Damocles sword of Arns finding a key pick? Even last round, he didn't find a key pick, but he forces everyone to play inside that small room there, just in the middle of your screen, which kind of sets Kevster up here.
It's so feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
If Arns, if he comes out of the spawn, grapples, gets a headshot, like...
But what I mean, it doesn't have to, right? I mean, he didn't on the last attacking side. I think everyone just respected him so much that they lined themselves up like bowling pins for, you know, that AoE damage for Reiner and Kevster to really hit hard.
Yeah. Looks like the Ons Widow again coming out.
This is a very sharp angle.
Yeah.
Maybe like, or maybe wondering if they play like a weird comp to set up an early pick here, but the margin for error is so slim for Dallas.
And you see where Dallas wants to play. They want to play this high ground, right? They want to wait for the Gladiators to dive up. And as I was mentioned, Edison, like somebody needs to put pressure on the cart, right? Because otherwise, they'll just keep continuing to move this cart and get it under that bridge, and then you have an even better area for Ons to shoot from.
Dallas likely wants to make
forcing them to.
Yeah, I mean, they want to make use of the server room here.
Yeah.
That natural cover from the Widowmaker is good, but eventually someone needs to contest the card. So making use of the high ground there that Sparkle's trying to contest is really important. Don't let Widow just set up and just aim down at you. Sparkle, who's on the card? Just Arns. Okay. The Gladiators lose a player. I guess they tried to sneak him over the line, but it ends up being traded off Fearless.
Too.
Their secret weapon is down. Yep. 3 seconds remain. It's going to be a close one in this round. Sparkle looking for Kevster, but he's going to be knocked away. Looks like Skewed was able to find the whip shot to clear him away from the cart here. Sparkle, though, how close can he get? Not very. Trying to approach here, but it cannot be done. Dallas Fuel forced away. A lot of displacement effects. Guarantee the win there for the Gladiators. A very close map, though.
Yeah, and, you know, you lose Ons first for the Gladiators, but losing Fearless there is really tough because you still have the Brigitte on the payload at that time. Reiner is still alive on the Winston. And I think Skew did a really nice job, you know, knocking Sparkle away, putting down some damage for the players jumping in to try and contest. As I know his break definitely paid off on that one, but man, close series between these two. Could have gone either way.
That may be the case, but it's the Fuel who are running out of rope, Matthew. Stick around, everybody, because the Dallas Fuel need to win this next map to stay in the series in this clash of titans. So the question, of course, on everybody's lips, how do your art skills stack up with those of Matthew Morello? You can share your fan art celebrating the teams you think will take home the win in the Kickoff Clash for a chance to be featured in our fan art gallery. Goes without saying, we've got some incredible artists out there in the community. Shout out, Angie.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to see you.
Shout out.
Well, you want to shout out? Fine. Shout out Matt.
Yeah.
Yep. Great art. This guy. This is what happens when you bathe in milk. It really just gets those creative juices going, right? That's your secret.
Yeah. Bathing in milk, right? That's not something I do.
Well, I mean, you know.
I think Hex brought it up as our producer just started laughing. There was on the show Barry, there was one where they were like a player in the background. Oh yeah, by the way, Hanbin's in. They're bringing him in for Eichenwalde, but there was a milk joke on the show Barry. It's pretty funny. You guys should go watch it. But Hanbin comes in on Eichenwalde. This is something we saw them do in our previous series that we casted of them. And Funny Asher comes in for Skewed. This is where we really saw Dallas like turn up. With that Reaper Genji combination with the Zarya and really do work. It just seemed like the Gladiators had some answers for when we saw it come up on Colosseo, but maybe Eichenwalde, different story.
Well, right. On Colosseo, it was a little bit telegraphed when Edison was teleporting forward. And I mean, the Gladiators had Funny Astro there just to kick it up to 11 and get them out of dodge, right? You can disengage on a dime pretty easily when you've got a particularly aware Lucio player on your team. So the Gladiators, seeing these substitutions from Dallas and thinking, okay, we probably have a feel for what kind of flavor this is going to be. Gladiators are the ones with the plethora of possibilities available to them, right, based on their sort of DPS players in here. You know, they could have that Echo on defense, right? Kevster can use the clock tower to break line of sight and still sort of put some burst pressure down, force a switch to Tracer maybe. A lot of options here.
That's what you're kind of looking at, right? If you can play the Echo, play the 76, just consistent damage from range, you can force them onto the Tracer. But what if the Dallas Fuel come out with the Tracer at the start? So potentially looking like Tracer Genji here for the Dallas Fuel to kick things off.
Yeah, just to see how this sort of plays out again. All right, so yeah, maybe not a shock to see the Reaper. Again, Edison can make decent use of teleport here. One way or another, though, it's very unlikely that he's able to reposition unbeknownst to the Gladiators. He'll definitely have tabs kept on him. So it's a matter of, making it so it doesn't matter if the Gladiators know he's coming. Making it so they can't do anything about it anyway. Early damage here. Spark will take a little low. Hardbinner gets some decent charge to work with.
Yeah, it's just with the constant damage from the 76 and then Echo, can you fly in, finish one of those players off quite quickly? Can you get through this choke? This composition seemed to work on Colosseo, but now they get onto the point and Hanbin's charged up. He could be a beast.
A lot of pressure here, but Kevster was able to pick Sparkle out of the bunch here with the focusing beam elimination. Hanbin's still a problem, and he's not going to lose that charge anytime soon, so still a lot of respect needs to be paid towards Azaya, and the impetus there for the Dallas Fuel, the thrust of their spear is Edison and Hanbin forcing them inside the hunting lodge.
Once they push them inside and you have Hanbin that charged up, even if you lose that first player, where it was Kevster taking out Sparkle, doesn't matter. You have that Zarya and the Reaper alive, and that type of fight in that area of the map, that is more than enough to get it done. It's the Dallas Fuel able to take that first point, their first push.
What do you make of this, though? How did Dallas get Hanbin in position to have high impact when they're dealing with the verticality issue?
Yeah, this is what we thought was going to be their main issue, right? Being able to try and take this high ground. What it ended up being for the series we casted earlier this week was they were able to use like the Reaper TPs and the Genji getting up to the high ground. Yeah, with a bubble.
Another one? No. All right, attack visor is there. Edison got given 2 bubbles though. Didn't quite work out. So very much the brute force approach for Dallas is repelled.
We'll see how they keep going with it. I imagine they stick with it, use those bubbles on Genji and Reaper. They can both get to the high ground, and that's how you move them. You try and, let's say Dallas, some of those players get low, they drop to the cart, the Gladiators follow, the Zarya is charged up, you have both supports there, then maybe you can win that fight.
All right, another very telegraphed TP, but again, it doesn't matter. They know he's coming. The bubble was deployed instantly. Ryan takes a licking, forced to head skyward. Edison maybe TP in the direction of that Ana. Again, bubble. We're off to the races once more. Again, subtle as a sledgehammer for plastic surgery, man, but it doesn't have to be anything special. Kester, though, again picks off Sparkle.
You probably don't have to. Oh, well, I was going to say you don't have to use anything, but he duplicates to get that little bit of invulnerability to live through that. So
yeah, and then Wake Walk, right? He just shrugs off the damage. I mean, very clever. It's a shame he doesn't get away with that. Nice work by the Dallas Fuel to pivot quickly back at him, but pretty impressive mechanics from Kevster, smashing that Q button.
Yeah, and he's killed Sparkle a few times early, Kevster, with the focusing beam. Is this going to be a bubble that comes in, a blade, but sound barrier from Funny Astro is Sparkle gets fast, yeah.
Oh, that's so brutal for him. Again, with the soldier serpentining and the sound barrier timing, you have no idea what you're going into there as Sparkle. It goes horribly for him. But here's a Graviton Surge for Harming. They held on to that for quite a while, Matt. They're able to clean up Reiner and Arndt, put Funny Astro in a position where he really just has to shepherd his teammates away or suffer the wrath of Edison.
So they should be able to take out Shu here as well, so that's both supports you're going to lose. We'll see if the Gladiators can come out and fight this again. You still have Kevster left. You see, like, he's so far out, but can anybody even get a touch? It'll be Reiner on the Doomfist.
Yeah, Power Block doesn't really have the block that he needs there. Apparently 90%, not enough. That gets fixed later on. 4 minutes and 12 on the clock here, and Dallas have managed to get through that tougher part of the map with the Zarya. Now I feel like, she's back to shining in this position.
Oh, I completely agree. This is where the Zarya, the Reaper, with the speed boost of the Lucio should be even more impactful, as Gladiators need a fight win. They've been getting rolled here thus far.
Reiner, again, just tries to stake his claim to that corner. Not allow Dallas to sneak around it too far. And Arndt is a pretty comfortable spot, albeit slightly sharp angle. Still very well positioned to do work here. Who's he looking for? Harming was very low, so he switches targets midway through this tack. And this is a good way to force Dallas to batten the hatches, but they will be back with a vengeance.
Yeah, it looked like Dallas thought about getting aggressive going around that corner, but as soon as the attack came in, decided not to, as they have to use the nano boost on Hanbin to keep him alive.
Yeah, but he's charged up. He can actually make good use of this now. Legitimate damage-dealing dynamo. Funny Astro just gets absolutely posterized there as he tries to climb the wall, and that's two now for Hanbin with a grab in the back pocket. Everything coming up Millhouse for the Dallas Fuel here, Matt, and they'll get it home with 3 minutes and 9 seconds to spare.
They absolutely rolled the Gladiators here on Eichenwalde. Make really good use of this comp on this map, and it's one where you kind of look at the setup, and they're trying to attack the castle where they have high ground in the 76 with how good he is in the current state of balance that we're playing here. It looks really difficult, but man, Dallas Fuel, they do this to perfection with this composition. Set a really fast time, 3:09 in the bank.
It's so funny. We talked about, how telegraphed their composition is on like multiple levels, right? The Zarya obviously has to get, in a position to have impact, so probably push the high ground. The Reaper's going to teleport forward, obviously. But that extra Zarya bubble, makes it pretty hard to do anything about it. Kevster, I think, was able to find a couple of key picks as that Echo here, but they're kind of too far between. And Harmby can always quickly respond to a teammate that's been gooed, for lack of a better term, by the sticky bombs. And and prolong their lifespan here. This is probably Dallas's signature and best look.
Let's take a look here from Fielder's POV. This is where, he nanos Hanbin as he was.
The turnaround is just absurd. He's 1 HP. There you go.
He's so charged. He's already doing tons of damage because he's charged up, but then he's also nanoed on top of it, and you see how much charge he gains off those bubbles, whether it's onto the Reaper or the Genji. See, Reaper 76 here. As interesting that they'll have Sparkle play the 76, and they'll put Edison on the Reaper, but I guess we've seen Edison play a ton of Reaper. We know that Sparkle's capable of playing hit scan.
Yeah, obviously Edison's important as he's the device with which Hanbin gets a lot of his charge. The Soldier 76 though, this is a decent part of the map to play this longer. I guess Hanbin is capital D dead if he's not careful here.
I think if he was careful, he'd be dead. Yep. Yeah, the rest of his team gets kind of wiped behind him.
So that was Dallas Fuel's point A defense.
Yeah, and I think it kind of speaks to like some of the stuff we've seen. Like, this series has been really close, and I think the Dallas Fuel just like key moments sometimes, like they just kind of aren't coming through right now in this series. I think obviously we've seen so much from this team in the past where they do, but
no, I mean the same happened on Gibraltar then, man. It's a great point. They look really good, and then they just lose their grip on the situation. They were very close to Gibraltar, and then that last moment just didn't play out in their favour. So Eddie now on the Tracer once more. Rhino taking a beating here, but going to be able to break line of sight with the payload. Hanbin, though, getting right around him and straight into arms at the back line. Even with Biotic Field available, he's hitting hard.
Yeah, Reiner's still trying to make a play here, though. He's got the power block, going to have all his abilities back up in a second. Loads of a punch, decides not to go for it. They lose Funny Astro. Now he's going to go as he gets a stun on the Hanbin. Hanbin's got a bubble, big seismic slam. Now he's going to ult.
The Fielder, so they want to avoid the damage from that. I don't know how we got away with that. I mean, Hanbin able to stand tall here, and Reiner did a heck of a lot of work in that last fight. From our perspective, it seems like he was a little on his lonesome there. Somehow that Meteor Strike, maybe just because of the way the cart is set up and how line of sight breaking works with those angles, he doesn't blow up Fielder.
Yeah, you also had a nano-boosted Hanbin in your backline, taking people out as you're going to use the grab here. It was just Funny Astro, and Astro does not want to burn Sound Barrier on that. We're going to have Aunts now with attack visor, a pulse bomb thrown out, and everybody's just dumping everything into this fight to try and get the payload moving for the Gladiators, but they're not able to do so.
Yeah, this is good money after bad being thrown now. You know, Dallas try and double down and say, hey, okay, we actually have a really nice spawn camp scenario here. Good for Tracer, good for Azaya. Sound Barrier Blade has to be used, and Kevster, he's almost in the PvP.
Here, yeah.
No, he's almost in the PvE part of the map. You know, the one that's probably like a walled garden somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Killing Omnix.
Oh, man, it's, yeah, he's gone real far back. We'll see, check out.
He went to Stuttgart, Matt.
Ooh.
Well,
that's
Chio went to rock bottom.
Sick play from Shu, though.
Yeah, great way. And not easy, because it's not as if, you know, Chio's making a misplay by jumping off a really high ledge and then using the ult. You have a really short window to interrupt him there. Shu's just a little cracked. Alright, removed there by Edison, who's able to push really deep. Sleep dart there from Fielder, crucial now. Spend that time just top and sparkle back up. Dallas can stabilize here, but they lost a pretty large amount of progress here after they put up a pretty successful spawn camp. I wonder if someone sort of snuck the back, you know, the cart behind them.
Yeah, and this will allow the Dallas Fuel to get in a position where they'll be able to hold that high ground. They'll have Sparkle up there on the 76, and then if they want to jump up, you also have that Reaper in position to do some damage.
Right, Fielder with the nano. Edison. Gets given
he's in.
Yeah. All right, finds Arns here. Obviously not in a position to get bubbles. So he's a little bit afraid of that. Even with the damage reduction the nano provides. I'm sorry. That ain't it, Chief.
Well, they did nano Aunts, and he did force like Aunts and Shu out of the fight for a very long time.
Rhino over the primal range is able to come back in, and oh my! Turning him into pancakes. He will have to give up his life for that. And the question is it really worth it for the Glads? They only have 2 players here.
And I think you probably can contest this. Sparkle goes over to Symmetra here just to get a TP. And that gets taken out right away. So Edison or Wraith form, just get on the point.
Oh, really?
No, Chia gets back.
The card. Okay, Arts is in position to do damage though now. Graviton Surge, this is interesting. Will there be a tactical visor to try and win the fight? Harvey might have come to the rescue for the Dallas Fuel, and the Gladiators will let it slip. Oh, you hate to see it. Harvin gives a bubble over. Reiner very, very low. And with tails between legs, the Gladiators slink off home. For shame.
Yeah, Chia gets back. He's able to touch. They get Hanbin back in the mix. He grabs. So they're just standing on that payload. Don't want anybody to potentially backcap.
It's like the plot of every bad Michael Bay movie where like an asteroid almost collides with the Earth, blowing it up, but just averted it.
You've also kept the sound barrier here for Dallas Fuel, which is huge.
All right, here's that tactical visor. Sound barrier immediately from Chio. Tied the disco dance. And Edison can't find a dance party because they're all dead. They are deceased.
Is the payload? Somebody was on it here. I believe it was Kevster, but not going to backcap here on the Fuel. So
45.
I thought Edison was thinking about maybe making a change, but decides to stay on Reaper. They'll have Reaper Tracer here. They still have this Nano. They've held on to that. The Gladiators, this will be probably their last opportunity to take this point.
Dragon Blade here for Kevster, but no guarantees there's value derived from that. Edison, I wonder how much scouting was done here, how much info he had about where the Gladiators were. This will buy some time though. Kevster with the blade, Keo just slaps him.
But look at what this Nano Reaper does. This Nano Reaper has taken up the time of Funny Astro, Shu, and Aunts. Maybe you're not getting the most out of it in terms of like big flashy plays and kills, but just occupying 3 members of the other team with just one of your players is a trade you'll take every single time. It's the Dallas Fuel with a strong defense here on Eichenwalde. Pick up a map.
Deep breaths, Dallas fans. Your team stays in the fight, and on the upside, they look extremely good there, right? We see that Zarya comp again taken for a ride here on Eichenwalde. This time looks really good. And again, Edison, very impactful on that Reaper. 17 final blows, 7 deaths. The next closest player in the server is Hanbin at 15 and 4. After that, it's Kevster at 10. Really nice work here from the Zarya Reaper combo. They really do hit diff with double bubble out there. And the Dallas Fuel stamp their sigil on that 3rd map. Stick around, more to come in the series. Maybe even 5 maps if you're lucky. Don't give Right, despite the closeness of this match initially, I know a lot of people would have been disappointed to see Dallas fall on Eichenwalde and cede the series over to the Gladiators. The good news for those people is they're still in it, and they look pretty darn good on Eichenwalde here, a map that we kind of felt that, you know, the Gladiators with their sort of heavy lean towards answers, hit scan pressure would look good. Dallas make that Zarya, Reaper setup, work for them again. It's quickly becoming, again, like I said before, the hallmark of their trade here in Season 5.
Yes, no subs, it looks like, for either team going into the next map, which will be Ilios. So depending on what kind of stage of Ilios we get could really determine, or at least early on, how kind of this game goes, right? Do we see Ruins and Ons be able to play that Widowmaker? And what is the answer from the Dallas Fuel? Is it to play like the Zarya, the Tracer, Genji combination? On maps other than that, like, Ons playing the 76, there's not a lot of area and high ground to really hide behind, so maybe a little bit easier of a dive target, which then starts to favor the Dallas Fuel. So I think which maps we get here will be quite interesting at the start.
It's a great point. This is the kind of map here, where Reiner's Winston play definitely got highlighted in the last time we saw the Gladiators take to this particular field. Very, very good at sort of being everywhere at once and applying pressure where it needed to be. Now for the Fuel, outside of the Symmetra TP to set them, at a brisk walk towards the point, expect to see more of the same with Hanbin remaining in the roster. Now I know, like in the pre-season, Hanbin was playing a decent amount of Doomfist, right? And when I talked to Hazma, he was like, you wait till you see Hanbin on Doomfist, man. So, definitely had my interest peaked there, but this Zarya look is such that I don't really need to see too much variety from him. I'm quite happy to see that. Dallas are one of the few teams that are really pushing this look, and so far, they're making it their own.
So it'll be the Genji with Reaper combination for the Dallas Fuel. So Kepster will pull out the Echo. So when we've seen this, Dallas has opted to go for the Tracer, right? There might be something that we see them go towards, on another spawn, but I think you're really looking at Ons. How can he maneuver around the map and stay away from some of these players? Yeah, you see the TP come right in. And they do this every time, Mitch. They TP, and then they also have the bubble on Edison. Once he gets in there, he's able to use the Wraith form to stay alive a little bit longer. And you don't know if he's going to come out of that or stay in it, whatnot. And it makes it really difficult for Ons, because then he also has players coming from the opposite side to attack him, as this will be the Dallas Fuel taking the point.
Yeah, there's no way to stop that Reaper from coming because he TPs with a bubble applied to him. Because obviously now, before he materializes, he's eligible to receive the projected barrier from Zarya. So it's like, what, do you blow your cooldowns on him and he just immediately goes into Wraith Walk and sort of cancels those out with the immortality.
And then by the time that happens, there's another bubble in the mix.
Yep.
And the Tracer's also down your throat as well. And then a fully charged Zarya.
So like I said, early detection really the only cure for that, or to pressure him out of positions, or put him to sleep. That's also fine there as well. Still results in a trade as Field is able to snipe Shu down across the map. But the Gladiators have the positional advantage here as Hanbin is forced into that corner, so they lose control of the point here.
And are they going to be able to flip it back? Because we got a Sparkle versus Ons matchup here on the side. Here come the Zarya bubbles. You have Gio coming over the top. They're able to deal with Sparkles, so maybe we get a flip back now as you have 3 players here for the Gladiators.
I mean, Edison will just dip his toes in for a while up on that side. The boop. Okay, sound barrier to follow up there for Chio. Arn's already gone down. Dallas with the numbers and a pretty substantial lead in this fight now. Need to keep Hanbin standing though. Kempster bursts him down, but loses so many teammates in doing so. Sparkle able to get rid of Reiner, and Dallas stay in the hot seat.
She has really started to pick it up nicely in this series on the Lucio. So, picking up some big kills. Funny, Astro's still doing the same for the Gladiators. So, Gladiators with some ultimates, probably their best chance to actually flip this point when you kind of think about it, where we are in terms of this round.
Good looking out there from Sparkle. Great to get Arts out of the fight early on here. Edison currently is just the lightning rod, Matt. 0 final blows, 2 deaths now, as he draws out a lot of this attention here, but hasn't found a ton of kills himself. Sleep there for Kempster on the duplicate. Chio is in trouble.
Yeah, can Hanbin contest this for a little bit longer? You're going to have Sparkle come back. He's going to jump on. So can you get this to 90 if you're the Dallas Fuel? It looks like, maybe even a little bit higher. Edison going to jump down into the well.
Let the man touch the ground at the very least. Great predictive fire grenade there.
So they get up to 94. If you're the Gladiators, you have to know Hanbin has this grab. So you have to be spread out a little bit. You don't have a sound barrier to deal with it. Like, you're almost like, do we sacrifice a player, right? Like, you know, if Reiner gets grabbed or something like that, can we nano him and maybe try and
get Shu or Hans.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for. Try and catch out the 76.
That's best value scenario here, considering how distributed the Gladiators are. A lot of damage on Kepster there, and I think right now Shu is occupied, so can't be healed. Edison with the Death Blossom comes up well. Arndt goes down here, and Reiner can't do too much either. Again, nothing subtle about this. Edison gets in your face, gives you no choice.
They don't even need the graph. You still have a Pulse Bomb as well. Maybe they'll want to combo these ultimates, but Sparkle with the Tracer pressure on the Kepster. He's not able to get in there, finish players off. But it's really, you know, Edison with the TP in, getting the bubble, and then speed boosting the Zarya in there as well, because now the Zarya comes in all charged up, more bubbles for herself, for the Reaper.
You didn't have to use grab in that previous fight. That is absurd. I mean, you know that your back is absolutely broken there. Very nasty. And like Edison didn't do much at the start of the round, right? Didn't have to. Comes out with 2 final blows, which is honestly more than enough here.
Yeah, because it really, like, it neutralizes, like, what they're trying to do with the 76. Where I almost would love to see them play the Widow here and just try and force them off of this. Like, Vance can get a pick or two, right? Maybe that kind of forces Edison onto the Tracer, and then Sparkle, you know, playing Genji, and you can kind of go back to running this 76. But it seems like really with this combination that they found out with, you know, and really it's something they tried early on, but it wasn't successful.
Keep an eye out.
Maybe just because of the map of Colosseo, but yeah.
Keep an eye out here for just how much Edison occupies Shu by filling up his field of view by teleporting right into his face when that happens. Really hard for Shu to keep someone like Kevster standing when he's busy with you know, being jump scared every 3 seconds. Nice dive to the backline there for Reiner. Follow-up, though, needs to be forthcoming. Arndt's able to deal with Edison there, who maybe overextends a little bit. He had the Zarya at his back, so he was feeling confident, but there were no bubbles.
You know, though, I like how the Gladiators, like, adapted there, as they had Arndt on, like, an off angle. He's not really kind of playing with the supports and, you know, a little bit more clumped up. So we got the Reiner shooting some bodies here. Not playing super clumped up with the supports, right? So where the TP comes in, you know, maybe he doesn't have the help of the Lucio or the Ana, but at least they're able to kind of exist on the other side. That is sweet there, yeah.
Yeah, that was sick. Glad we get to catch that from Reiner.
Right, he can play to the side here, Alex. And if they want to use the Reaper TP to go after the 76, that's fine. Let him make a decision on where he's going to go, not just into, you know, the belly of 3 players on your team and occupy all of them.
Tough for Reiner. He is able to respond to Edison TPing into his backline, right? Play reactively there, but is ultimately punished. Kempster's going to be able to deal a lot of damage here, especially with Arndt commanding so much of the attention out of this tactical visor. And the Gladiators will extend their lead now. Just make sure
play with more space if you're the Gladiators, right? Reiner with sick mobility will be able to kind of get back. We've seen him on numerous times now, being able to, like, turn around, punch Edison, dislodge him, get him out of the way. But don't allow Edison to just TP into 3 players. So, you know, maybe he has to pick whether, you know, to go over towards Shu. He gets booped by Funny Asho or whatnot, and then he's also getting peppered down with damage from the side. Force him to make a decision. That's what I think you need him to do.
1-2.
Oh, yeah.
That'll get rid of Chio.
So you may. So here's the thing. You may win this round if you're the Gladiators, right? It's looking really good. You worry about Lighthouse, though. Like, you know, this map kind of favors, like, that hit scan and, like, gives you that space. A map like Lighthouse, though, doesn't do that at all. Like, how close quarter that point is, I think, you know, once we get there, providing, you know, not a miraculous comeback here by the Fuel, you're really looking at how the Gladiators want to play that. I think they need to play high ground for picks early on.
All right, we are looking ahead because Dallas are in a very tough spot here. No grab built by Harmon in this round. Sparkle already down. Sound barrier from both sides, except the Gladiators get it on 5. Reiner. Okay, sees a sleep on Fielder, and yeah, really doesn't need to do anything fancy there. Just a bit of damage will be enough. And it's just a matter of time until this round is over. And if you'll think ahead, right, think about how they get value out of Edison on a map whose topography differs a little bit. Sparkle can jump in, but he won't touch.
Think about how large the gulf is between the teams here. in terms of space on the map, and you can't exactly just speed boost the Zarya in across the point. Like, that is such a large area to do so, and you're just taking damage, and if you're kind of playing on these off angles, if you're aunts, you're able to put in really good damage. So we go to Lighthouse now. Does Dallas move away from this? I almost feel like this would be like the prime opportunity you'd want to play what they were running.
I mean, yes, but also, you know, it might be harder to see the Reaper coming. It can also be harder to give him bubbles as well, especially if he's playing, like, you know, on an extremity of the map, right? You know, you're not obviously going to be there with him necessarily as a Zarya. Harder maybe to give him that support with line of sight that you need. So it's a tender balance, Matthew, and we're going to have Hanbin on the D.Va.
We have a D.Va and an Echo Mercy, so putting a lot of resources here into Sparkle.
Oh no.
Going up against Aunts, right? Because Aunts trying to take that high ground. The D.Va can get up into that position as well. We haven't seen a ton of D.Va thus far.
I mean, you don't get much more than that in Overwatch 2 for Peel than Fielder got there. Hanbin tried to protect him. He's rezzed as well. Okay, nice work, Shu. Not able to get any value out of that sleep dart. He's in trouble. Hanbin finds his target, but at what cost, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like this would have been the time to run that Zarya comp. Like, all right, so you're gonna have Chu go to Lucio. Sparkle now will play Tracer. We're gonna see a D.Va swap. It looks like we're still gonna stay on the D.Va. So, interesting that they go here with no Genji. So, no Genji here for the Dallas Fuel.
I mean,
trying off of that high ground. And you're going to lose Geo right away.
I don't hate that theory you're developing. I don't. But if you're Zarya and your Ana's left up on the high ground, you cannot do anything for her. You can't do a thing. Like, there's just too much. There's too much transition between high and low around this point to play Zarya, and then just like your backline gets ruined.
But we have seen Anas be able to, like, think about like Sir Majid when we were talking like the other day watching that game. Like, you know, sometimes like he's you know, defending himself against like, you know, 2 players, and he's able to, you know, biotic speed.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should have to, right? Like, you're asking a lot. You got Kevster up on your grill. This is no garden variety pressure in your back line.
Yeah. I mean, what are your options, right? Now you have like, you know, have a Hanbin in who's a fantastic player, but like he's not like your Winston player on this team, right?
No. Well, I think they're running out of options. I think that, you know, like, if you want to play Zarya, then just forget about ever going upstairs. Just don't go to the high ground.
Well, so they use the Genji now. So they use the Genji now. That can kind of close the gap a little bit more towards that high ground, put some pressure on. As Gladiators, they pretty much get 71%. It almost feel like for free, Mitch, right? Like, it didn't really feel like there was a ton going on.
Well, Dallas were having an existential crisis of listening to My Chemical Romance. They just got 71% of their capture points. Brutal stuff. Hanbin nano, but slept. He's out of this one. Attack now. Edison forced to try and get away. Hanbin takes a little bit of damage there. Everyone really trying to break line of sight from this soldier, but eventually they have to stand and deliver. Ants, plenty of damage to work with here. Now, mind you, Dallas had the point right, so this is the Gladiators just putting themselves in a position to try to accrue some of that points, and Hanbin,
this is big,
deflects Kevster.
This is big. If Dallas can hold on, you know, here towards the end of this fight and take it. This is Sparkle getting knocked all over the place. You still have Hanbin on the point.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Hanbin is cleaning up. That is
massive down to Hanbin.
That is so many ultimates thrown in there by the Glads. And that was one where it was like, oh, well, you know, the Gladiators use some ultimates, come on back. And now it's looking like Dallas may be in control, because look, they're building up a little bit of a war chest of ultimates.
I have Whiplash. Yeah, you said it. Not the primary Winston player for the Dallas Fuel here, but Hanbin is posting them
perfectly fine, yeah.
Primal here, just in case he's at risk of dying. Clearly no fear. Didn't even need that to finish off the other. Now the Gladiators are in a compromise.
Funny Asher used sound barrier there.
And for what?
Didn't connect with anybody.
Joe, and the Gladiators are dropping the spaghetti, Matthew.
So now you're going to have a blade for Sparkle that's going to come in. You're going to have a nano blade potentially and a sound barrier of yourself, and nothing for the Gladiators to use to defend against it.
All right, clear the airway. Get those paddles ready. The Gladiators at risk of choking this in a big way, and Sparkle's going to find the blade connection. Not a funny Astro. Not a lot Reiner can do here, but try and punch away. Sparkle doesn't have the dash reset, but it doesn't matter. It had to be Kevster to try and keep the round alive until Reiner finally gets to the point. Attack visor, nano boost here for Edison, and eventually you know he's going to have to succumb. Ryder has Meteor Strike here. Edison can use the bubble to get away from the radiating damage from the middle of that AoE, and so he does. Another power block for Ryder here, but Edison is still standing. He doesn't have a bionic field, though he needs the healing from his teammates, and the bubble thrown down by Harbin is good. Now it's going to be Kevstra on the point again, trying to keep it going, but it's not going to be enough. The Gladiators have let it go, and Dallas come up with Harbin on the Winston with the goods.
Oh man, Dallas pulls it out of their bag there, man. That is one where the Gladiator's gonna watch his back, and they're gonna be kicking themselves. As, you know, he had an advantage in terms of ultimates, and Hanbin played really strong there. We talked a little bit about it. You know, obviously he was playing the Zarya, playing the Diva for a bit. Two heroes he feels comfortable on, more comfortable on. Goes over to the Winston though, when they absolutely needed to play lights out.
Now we have ourselves a game, ladies and gentlemen. It's an even ledger heading into map number 5, and Dallas might be in a position to sweep this array. Unreal scenes, everybody. You best be sticking around. This is incredible Overwatch. You could hear a pin drop in this lobby right now. Not a word exchange between the Fuel and Gladiators as the latter now have to dig their heels in to avert a reverse sweep, Matthew.
Yeah, it could be a really tough loss here for the Gladiators, but the fuel came on strong here in the second half of the series. It really kind of started on like Gibraltar, like they looked better, and then started to put it together when you put Hanbin back in. For these last two maps, Hanbin will stay in the game here, so we go into a game 5. This is also like really the first time this Gladiators team as a unit has faced really any adversity, right? Like it obviously super early into the season, like a new team pretty much, right? You know, Hans, Reiner, Funny Astro in the mix, right? It just kind of, I think this is a good learning experience even for them. Obviously, you would not want to be on the end of a reverse sweep, but still.
Yeah, you'd rather learn and still win, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a side that I hate when they say like, you know, losing is learning. It's like, well, you also learn when you win. And you don't have to lose. I mean,
it's gigacopium for the previous generation.
Yeah,
I don't know how many people are saying that these days. You know what I mean? It's like those bot accounts on Twitter, just like with the spitting out the quotes every day, like Coach Bot or whatever it is. I don't know if any of us really live by that concept anymore. I'm trying to win. So are the Fuel and Gladiators here, though. And
yeah.
If we recall, last time we saw Push, Matthew, not inspiring from Dallas, right? They tried the Zarya Reaper look, and they got mulched.
But Colosseo has those really long sight lines, right where the bot is. There's a lot of different like flanking routes and close quarter areas here on New Queen Street that it may not be as punishing if you are the Dallas Fuel to go up against that. So Dallas, I fully expect some kind of variation of this comp really built around the Zarya with the Reaper, being able to TP with those bubbles. It's been really effective. The Gladiators, they'll come out, they'll play the Doomfist Soldier 76 Echo with Ana Lucio, which seems to be the kind of the supports of choice for just about every map.
Arns has remained in this whole series, interestingly. Gladiators definitely leaning on him for these longer sidelines. That's a fact bio.
Yep, and that forces them back into this corner. And look at this. This is a great spot you'd want to fight with a Zarya and a Reaper, and forces the Gladiators back a little bit, gonna cycle back to their own barrier, trying to fight from the low ground.
Kevster here, ready to take flight at a moment's notice if he starts to suffer some pressure. Sparkle gets beamed on down though. Edison unsuccessful in his first foray to enemy territory with that teleport forward, and Harmon is going to lose that charge.
And Reiner has done a really nice job throughout this series, when we've seen him on the Doomfist against this type of comp, and I think that's kind of what they're going for, is that whenever the Reaper TP's in, he is there with a punch to, knock the Reaper away. You also have Funny Astro there with a boop, and when you keep that Reaper away from Ons for just that long, there's no bubbles alive, that is the easy pickings for Ons, as he's able to take out Edison straight away. And you see Dallas, they move off of it right away, as they see this adjustment that come out from the Gladiators.
And they want to make use of these longer sightlines if they possibly can. Sparkle successful on his trip behind enemy lines. Shu won't be in the fight anytime soon, and apparently nor will the Gladiators.
So we'll see Sparkle now. So the bot kind of gets back to almost the area where it starts. So Reiner with a power block, just trying to see if he can load up a punch, get around the corner, but that's going to be Kevster picking up one, but it's going to get traded out pretty quick.
Zan Barrier comes out here now. Kevster that Bionate a little bit too late to keep Kevster alive. Funny Astro commands the heights for now. Harmon is looking pretty dangerous though, well charged up, and with Reiner out of the picture here, nobody's durable enough to stand up to him in a face-to-face. You can see Arns makes himself rather scarce.
Hanbin not been able to get as much charge with this setup, right? Don't have that Reaper going in as a big charge battery for the Zarya, but still, able to make it work this far. I have to adjust the play zone just a little bit around this Tracer.
Yeah, tough for Reiner, obviously, to catch this Tracer, right? Sparkle can keep tabs on Reiner comfortably.
Right. The Tracer just can't get in as safely, right, as the Reaper can, because the Reaper can TP. The Tracer's use some of the blinks, which if you get caught out, could have to go backwards. This will be a lot of ultimates invested here. That's a grab you to get Reiner out early, but both teams throwing some big ultimates into this one, as this will be a nano visor as Ons picks up 2 straight away.
I think we missed something really interesting there, Matthew. Kevster jumped into the grab and duplicated Hanbin as Zaya, ladled out some bubbles, created enough time for Ants to get 2 kills with their tactical visor, and they're going to be able to win the fight. That was fascinating.
And Kevster is just so big-brained. He's able to just make plays like that just on the fly. Like even before, what was it? He duplicated the Ana in like a previous map, right? And slept, I think it was like Chio right away. Was able to use a biotic grenade. So just knows in every situation how to do it. So the Gladiators are actually going to mirror this. They're going to have Kevster move away from Echo, go over to Tracer. Tracer's definitely good against the Echo, so you want to get away from that. If you're Kevster, and we know how good Kevster is on the Tracer.
A lot of pressure on Sparkle here as Arns is nipping at the heels of Sparkle. Shoe play on the top of the tram there. Pulse, no connection from Sparkle. Another recall after having pretty minimal impact here. Tough for him to get in, like you said.
You're going to get Edison, though. It's going to be the Meteor Strike that's going to come down from Reiner. We'll see where he decides to drop that right on top of the barrier. His nice punch there on the Chio. Going to get some shots on the Hanbin to finish him off. So this is going to be the Gladiators moving the barrier yet again. They're going to be in the spot where they're going to take the lead. And I was also wondering, Mitch, in this kind of variation of comps that we've seen from the Gladiators, they haven't played the Doom, they played the Winston. And I wonder if that's something now that we see Sparkle on Genji they're going to go to. I thought they were maybe holding on to the Meteor Strike just to get that usage off and then go over to the Winston. So keep an eye on the next time that we see Reiner drop, what he decides to do.
But now the Gladiators just don't really fancy this fight, right? They get the lead and that's enough for them for the time being. Play back a little bit here and try and take a fight in a more advantageous position. Looks like they want to use the high ground for that, so they're not going to let Dallas move up. Yes, a stick! Nicely done by Kevster.
You want to fight in space, right? You have the attack visor. Kevster may not even matter. He may end up picking 2. His Ant's on a little bit of a side flank. Ends up using the visor. Doesn't really get much with it, but still, it's kind of we were talking about a little bit where I was saying New Queen Street has like all these like flanking angles and whatnot. You thought it'd potentially be good for the Reaper in certain situations, but definitely proves out to be effective for the Soldier 76 as well, taking these off angles.
See Reiner there just creating a bit of extra spacing between him and Hanbin, knowing that obviously the primary fire from Zaya is a little bit of range. Okay, attack visor. Yeah, looks like it's going to be the case here from Edison. Reiner going to be taken down by Sparkle, but Gladiators, most of them able to get out here. So nice foresight there by Funny Astro, speeds them away to safety. And Edison just goes a little bit too far. The Gladiators, are they in a position to do something here? Ants is traded out and a sound barrier is forced from Dallas.
I like this though. You use a sound barrier here for the Gladiators, that's going to force it out of the Dallas fuel. You start to dwindle down some of these ultimates because you have a pretty big lead in terms of progress of your barrier. So it's going to be harder to get that back towards the end. You're also, Dallas Fuel, going to have to throw some more ultimates into these fights to keep this barrier going in your favor. Dallas will have a grab coming in this next one.
Denying the front spawn, Dallas are able to get back to parity in the middle of the map, but they are still behind. And remember, the bot will take quite a break at this checkpoint if Dallas get it. Here's a blade. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be tough to get away from this. I love the Meteor Strike here to punish Sparkle. Edison was able to find Kevster though, so only 1 DPS up for the Gladiators right now. Shu, bit of skeet shooting from him as he picks Sparkle out of mid-air. And it's a really brawl of a fight, but Hanbin is still standing at the end.
We are in Sparkle's POV, and just think about how many things the Gladiators were throwing at him to try and kill him, and he lived for so long, man. Just tremendous help with the bubbles, Fielder obviously healing him at range, and like I mentioned, the Gladiators are going to move away from the Doomfist. They're going to go over to Winston now. I think this is the right call.
Front spawn for Dallas. They want to take a fight so that they're not stuck in overtime if they were to lose it. They want 2 fights here minimum. So it's either quick or not at all, and the latter seems to be the pick. Poor bot getting a bit of whiplash.
Yeah, he's got no idea what's going on.
Some conflicting directives there. Sparkle with no blade here. This doesn't force any defensive ultimates because there aren't any for the Gladiators. Biotic grenade comes down. Sparkle still wants to try and mess with Funny Astro there.
He deflected the sleep back at Shu. Yeah,
stunning. And again, best he can get is a trade there, but Reiner is down. That might be the
Dallas is taking the lead, Mitch.
18 seconds left in the round. Now Dallas able to sneak out in front there. The nano on the sparkle creates enough space for them to go to work. And now the Gladiators, not only, Matt, do they have to win this fight, they have to exceed Dallas's previous progress. This is it. The locus of activity now is about to go down as we're into overtime on New Queen Street. Hanbin is a grab. That could be it. That's what he's looking for. He gets 3 points straight away. Going to be a defensive body grenade from Shu, but it's not going to be enough. Fielder drops a bio in of his own. And Dallas spend the entire round behind on New Queen Street, but it's them at the end wearing the crown. What a reverse sweep from the Dallas Fuel. Haters be silenced. Incredible comeback.
Oh, and you can see just the Gladiators. That one hits them tough. So they looked great early on. No answers for what the Dallas Fuel had, though, in the second half of the series. And even then, they were up on New Queen Street for like most of the game. It was like the last, like, what, a minute and 30, a minute 45, where Dallas starts to move the barrier in the opposite direction and passes them by like 20 meters. It's a tremendous comeback from the Dallas Fuel. And those are the type of series that like spur you on to then go and, win and try and really like push together towards like a stage final, as they looked really strong. That's something that they can definitely look back on as a confidence builder. And for the Gladiators, Mitch, they beat New York and Boston last week. Here against Dallas, they looked quite good at the beginning, but you got to be able to put these teams away at the top if you're the Gladiators.
It was one fight, Matt. You called it out when they just got into the lead, right? It was Sparkle who got nanoed without a blade. He's able to deflect his sleep dart, create enough space, make it hard for the healing to go towards Reiner, allows him to get picked off, and then that was it. They had a grab. They were ready to go and win it all there.
Yeah, and he got ons as well up on the high ground, which was massive. Because he's out there putting down damage, just Soldier 76. That barrier is just kind of like at that corner where you're joking, like he's just going back and forth, back and forth. Like, you're up in that high ground on the window, you're pumping out tons of damage on the 76. Would have been difficult to, that was really the only way they could have dislodged him at that time, because, right, they have a Zarya, they're not playing a Winston, so they can't kind of send the tank up there. So, big play by Sparkle.
Really exciting end to that push, Matt. We're starting to see what these teams are capable of on this new game type. Let's talk about, though, our player of the match here, Matthew, someone that showed a level of flexibility that we really didn't expect from them. We know how adaptable they are, but this was something else. Hanbin brings that Zarya in. Now, we knew how incredible this was last week, right? And we were impressed, but it was this switch to Winston eventually, sealing the deal for Dallas, and I think the Gladiators were just shell-shocked after this.
Yeah, being able to play this Winston here on Lighthouse also, we saw him on Diva for a little bit. For me, Zarya is like the difference in this series. The amount of damage output he's able to do, clutch grabs like this one here at the end, but just really his bubbles to enable Edison, to enable Sparkle to go in and make plays, but then also follow it up with damage for himself. They showed a lot of teams today how strong that composition can be.
Yeah, all hail maybe the new Monkey King, but Hanbin obviously keeping an impressive amount of charge. And again, when it came to, the concert between, him and Edison on that Reaper, we said at the start of this game, right? Edison will be tested in this game. This is where we need to see him come alive. Now, we thought that might have been in like playing a Widowmaker in traditional hit scan role, but it was the Reaper, that Zarya composition. Really impressive stuff. This team's coming together in a huge way. And we got the reverse sweep. We got our match of the week that really delivered, Matt.
I would not be surprised if at the end of the kickoff clash, this is like a rematch, on land, right? In Dallas, like a big time game that we see these two teams again, because they look at the upper echelon of the West right now.
No doubt about it. We've still got another game to come here, of course, today on your Saturday, the Overwatch League, so stick around, everybody. Match 3 just around the corner. Not one to be missed. We've had a great day so far, and we're far from done. See you soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to Game Break, everybody. We're here now, joined by Hanbin from Dallas Fuel. Yeah, Hanbin, how are you feeling?
Good. 너무 좋아요.
Good. I'm sorry. I totally forgot to translate to Korean. I was just too excited that Dallas Fuel won. 제가 통역을 해야 된다고 깜빡했는데요. 너무 달랐어요. 오늘 승리한 거에 너무 기뻐서. 네, 죄송합니다. I will do my job now. 네, 똑바로 하도록 하겠습니다. Alright, let's talk about today's win. Actually, you guys, this was the very first reverse sweep that we had this season. How'd you guys get the win? Were there any adjustments that you guys made after map 2 that led you guys to win the match today? 첫 번째 질문은 오늘 승리에 대해서 제가 조금 더 여쭤보고 싶어요. 오늘 이제 지금 달라스의 승리 이번 경기가 이번 시즌의 첫 역수입이었는데 맵 2 이제 두 번째 맵을 진 다음에 좀 어떤 얘기가 오고 갔고 어떻게 해서 오늘 경기를 승리로 이끌 수 있었나요?
일단 첫 경기 끝나고는 제가 자리하고 나서 살짝 좀 아쉬운 플레이들이 많아가지고 뭐 콜적이나 아니면 상대 기세에 조금 눌리는 게 있었는데 제가 그 1세트 때 딱 느끼고 나서 2세트 이후부터는 그냥 3세트부터는 그냥 제가 원하는 대로 그냥 살짝 흥분도 하고 그냥 박았어요. 일단은 그냥 상대방한테 그냥 좀 돌진 저희만의 템포 살려가지고 잘 이긴 것 같아요. 장점 이용해서.
All right, so I think in map 1 in Colosseo, actually, I wasn't really happy with the way I played. I think it was the gladiators that were really oppressive, and that really affected how our team were playing against them. So overall, my play as a Zarya, as a tank for the team, I wasn't really happy with it. So I kept that in mind up until map 2. But going into map 3, I just went all out. I played how I felt like I should play, how I wanted to play, and I really wanted to bring the tempo back to our team, and I think that is what led to our team's victory today against the Los Angeles Gladiators. All right, and I also want to ask you, Hanbin, about your subbing strategies as well, because I mean today, of course, you had fantastic performance on not only Zarya D.Va but also Winston as well. But your team also has a great Winston player named Fearless. So how does that work? Is it more like map specific, or how do you and Fearless sort of how does that subbing strategy work between the two of you guys? 두 번째 질문은 이제 오늘 한빈 선수 당연히 오늘 되게 좋은 모습을 많이 보여줬고 거기다 또 윈스턴도 너무나도 좋은 모습을 보여줬는데 또 달라스 하면 또 피어레스 선수가 또 윈스턴으로 굉장히 유명한데 이 한빈 선수와 피어레스 선수의 이 선수 교체 이런 게 좀 어떻게 이루어지나요?
맵에 따라서 뭐 2층 맵 많은 구간이나 살짝 이제 자리아를 플레이하기 힘든 맵은 윈스턴을 사용하고 나머지는 그냥 다 자리아 1층 그냥 힘싸움 저희가 이제 갖다 박다 보니까 윈스턴보다 자리아가 힘싸움이 세니까 그냥 좀 더 1층 맵에서 자리아를 선호하고 2층 맵에서는 윈스턴을 좀 더 사용하는 것 같아요. 맵마다 뭐 딱히 누가 못해서 안 나온다기보다는 그냥 맵마다 쓰는 게 다르기 때문에 그런 식으로 선발을 꾸리는 것 같아요.
Alright, it's not really who's better Winston or who's better at certain heroes. It's more sort of map based. If the map pool has more, or if the map that we're going into has more high grounds, more second floors, where Winston's more favorable, then we would pick Winston. Other than that, if it's just one floor, and if it's more, go head in against the enemy team where Zarya is more favorable than Winston, then we will pick Zarya over Winston. So yeah, bottom line, it really is dependent on how the map is shaped, not how our players or me and Fearless, how we perform. All right, Hanbin, that is it for the questions. Thank you so much for amazing answers, and again, congratulations on the win. 오늘 다시 승리 한번 너무나 축하드리고 오늘 너무나 좋은 답변 감사드리면서 보내드리도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Happy Hanbin and a happy Dallas Fuel and an even happier Danny, and I'm pretty sure Costa is celebrating.
Costa.
Meanwhile, Jonathan and I, what are we even doing on this desk, Johnny? Like what?
I'm so boomed. I'm indescribably boomed. I was so boomed that I almost forgot to be back for the show. I'm not kidding.
You could have literally faked like tech difficulties and just did that. I would have probably done that if I were in your situation.
I got some mental technicalities right now. I'm just not in a good state, so this is tough.
No, but you're not alone. And you know what? The Pick'ems were with us as well. So at least our audience can't fault us for being the voice of the people, you know, Reinforce. That's what we do.
Exactly. We can't beat ourselves down too much, Zoe.
Exactly. And there are still so many more games to come. So, you know, even a blind chicken finds a corn every once in a while. Now, however, it was a close match, at least in the earlier stages, up until the Gladiators just starting to crumble pretty badly towards that end. I do feel like map 4 and 5, they were rather Dallas Fuel favored. However, I do think the Gladiators had a good start. There were a lot of highlights, individual highlights from each of those teams. Which players in particular stood out to you, Reinforce?
Honestly, there weren't any players that stood out specifically to me, but I think both teams put on like a great team showing. I think that this Gibraltar map specifically was really entertaining to watch. It reminded me a little bit of Dallas Fuel Washington Justice in the first stage of last year, actually, when you saw two very high-level teams going against each other and playing a really good kind of brawl. I guess not the brawl composition, but like, you know, a good neutral battle. But as we enter Eichenwalde, this is really where the Zarya and the Reaper composition took over. I think that Mitch and Matt did a very good job of explaining it during the commentary itself as well. Dallas Fuel being able to apply these Zarya bubbles onto Edison on the Reaper to sort of act as their dive, okay? So even though that Zarya is the tank of this composition, Reaper almost becomes the tank because he's so sustainable with the Wraith form and also being able to apply Zarya bubbles on top of him when he teleports in and makes the space for the rest of his team. It has to be said though, the LA Gladiators, they definitely had a chance to close this series out, both on Ilios. They were ahead on Lighthouse 71% to nothing, and they had a good ult bank here as well on New Queen Street. They had 72 meters capped for themselves, so they had a big advantage against the Dallas Fuel. Now, the Dallas Fuel, this is what they're known for. They're known for being able to clutch out some of these series, and you have to give them so much credit in that regard for being able to close this series out, being able to reverse sweep. Because in my mind, the Gladiators played a really good game, and I think that the Gladiators, had they had a bit more composure, perhaps a bit more discipline with their ultimates, they should have been able to win this series in the end.
I do think this was a really